to Bigfoot Odyssey. This is our fifth night, isn't it? Fourth night? Fifth night. Fourth night.
Remember,
it's one of our fourth or our fifth night of Spook Week. And we've got a great show planned for you. I'm your host, Gary Arnold. With me, as always, producer and co-host, Miss Danielle Aiolo. How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. Still awake. Still managing to keep going.
You got the time thing figured out yet?
Yeah, I know where I'm at. It's definitely midnight here, so that's all I need to know.
Better than 1 a.m. always. I don't even know when time goes back here. I have no idea. It might have already done it for all I know. I never pay attention. But we do have a great show planned for you tonight. Our guests, Gary Hootenholla, Robusto. He is a creator of the New York Bigfoot Society, and Kenney Irish. He is an author and a Bigfoot researcher, and these guys are gonna bring the noise tonight, and we appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time. Before we get started, remind everyone in the chat, please keep it clean for us. We do try to keep it family around here. We do have the best moderators on YouTube, and they will time you out. So we appreciate all the work they do for us, maintaining the integrity of our chat for us. Again, we do have the giveaway. We're giving away a ton of stuff. We just had some things added, and I think we figured out what we're going to do. Tomorrow night is the last night to enter. It's $10 for every entry, and John Adams has just put in 5 of his albums, which has got the Sitonga song on it, Forest People. It's really good music. I put some of the music on the SHUDDER actually. So he's going to put that in. So what we're going to do is, since there's so many things to draw for, is some of the smaller things that like the t-shirts and the albums and stuff, Wes and I are going to draw before the show, and then we'll just call out who the winners are. And during the show, we'll do the bigger prizes for everybody to see, just because it's going to take so much time drawing for everything. So, and we appreciate everyone that's entered so far. There's a link in the description for the PayPal if you still want to enter. Okay, I think I'm done.
Yeah, good.
So, all right, Gary, I'm gonna start with you, man. So tell us what it is that you do right now. What are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, as far as Bigfoot's concerned, my name is Gary Robusto, aka Hootenholla. I'm the creator of the New York Bigfoot Society, based in New York, Albany, New York. Also the founder and creator of the Tri-City New York Paranormal Society, based out of Albany, New York. A little bit about myself: I've been a paranormal researcher for 25 years. So I've been doing this way before this was all on TV, famous. I've been doing this since started when I was 14. I'm 41 now. I've been Bigfooting for the past about 12 years, getting into the Bigfoot phenomena. I've been on Travel Channel, History Channel, Nat Geo, all those shows doing Bigfootology, as I like to call it, in the woods, and, my main goal is just to be here for the witnesses and our clients. So many people have seen this creature, and, they get ridiculed for it. And, we're here not so much to prove the existence of Bigfoot, because at the end of the day, it is what it is. I know I had my sighting, so I'm good. But still, there's so many people that, want to talk about it. And we're kind of like an outreach program for them to come to, put their claims in. But then I have investigators throughout the whole state of New York. So I work with a lot of other groups that they're ambassadors to our team. And, we go out and check the phenomena. I want to back up their claims with pure data, with real data and facts, not made up BS and those kind of things. So that's kind of what we do. With a no nonsense approach to the Bigfoot phenomena. But like you say, there's so much weird in it also. And 2020 has been such a big year for us as far as our findings and really collecting the data. So it's been a big year.
Well, to me, it's an important thing to get graphable data. Not that you couldn't graph everything, but the hard evidence that people look for. And you're right. It's nothing that we get on camera or anecdotally is going to prove a thing. It never is. But if we can convince more people that these creatures are out there, at least to pay attention and maybe start watching and paying attention to all the different shows and things that are out there on the subjects, the better off we're going to be. Awareness is the key here. and we don't even discuss. It's not even a question whether or not the creature exists here. It's a matter of fact. This is what it is. We go on people's accounts, and to me, the anecdotal stuff is the best convincer for anybody. So, Kenney, you do field research, correct? Do you do just Bigfoot, or you do other things also?
I would say, lately it's been, just Bigfoot, without a doubt. I mean, since I hooked up with Gary, and we've been working together for about a year and a half now, I would say. Searching for like the right team to join and the right people to be with is really important. That you have very similar interests and ways of thinking, but at the same time, you don't agree on everything. And that's kind of what I liked about, the relationship that I have with Gary and working with him. And, there were a lot of reasons why I joined this team over others where, Gary's very much about surroundings in the forest and taking care of it as well and being responsible, where a lot of groups prior that I talked with, they were just a bunch of people that was like, hey, this looks cool, I saw it on TV, let's create a team name, get matching t-shirts, and then go out in the woods. And I wanted somebody that's been doing it for a while that could teach me something. And he's definitely taught me a lot. He's done a lot in the field, and so it's been a good experience so far. So, and Danielle, I gotta say, I'm happy to talk to you. Actually talk to you because through Messenger you don't really get to know anybody. So this is good. Yeah. So I'm happy to be on here and be able to talk to you directly.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm just cabbage on the side. Don't worry about me at all.
Yeah, well,
I feel the same way.
It's a great radio voice, by the way, you got there, Kenney. That's pretty good, actually.
Well, you're actually like right above Gary, so I figure it's like the Carrie and Gary team and the Daniela and Kenney team. So
okay, yeah,
I like that. I like
it's
that.
on.
Works.
Quick thinking on my feet.
That's awesome, dude. That's what it's all about.
So, yeah. Good save, everybody.
Okay, good.
But it's Spook Week, and the tradition of Spook Week, we got to come with some scary stories. So you guys have to have some type of scary, hair-raising, blood-curdling experiences. Gary, do you want to go first? Tell us a little something, man. I know you got to have thousands of them, right?
Oh, dude, I got so many. But actually, this is going to come from the ghost side of it, because I do the phenomena. So I own a paranormal team. We've been at it since 2008. All right. As a team, basically, I've been researching for so long. One of the weirdest, scariest, I guess you want to say scary, I don't really look at it that way, but is, we were at this old mansion in Albany, okay? It's called the Tembrock Mansion, and that used to be our headquarters of operation. Now, this house is from the 1700s. It's a federal style building. To set it up, Abraham Tembrock was a brigadier general in the American Revolutionary War. And the Battle of Saratoga was basically one of the turning points of the Revolutionary War, which is right in our backyard, which is great. And so we're investigating. We were there all the time, but this one story, we were in this room we called the library. Now, the reason we call it the library is because a lot of the college kids would come in and do projects in this room. It was for school and things like that. So there was a lot of it was all like a mix and match type room, but we really didn't know from the history what this room was. So 2 investigators were in the room. And at this point in time, this is back about 2011, we started playing with the flashlight test and things like that. When that first came out, TAPS brought that out, things, and we were kind of playing around with it, and we were able to debunk it after a while. But the really weird thing about it happened, this is the one time, well, this is the second time, I'll tell the other story. The second time that this happened, I had 2 investigators, and they were asking questions, and what we used to do was, can you please shut the flashlight off in the count of 3? Okay, like you say, we try to do things data-based, not scientific. I don't like that word in this because you can't do things scientifically, really, because we can't do the scientific method. But what we can do is be very data-based. And on the count of 3, shut the flashlight off. Once again, my investigators were like, 1, 2, a woman goes 3. And then you hear the investigator go 3. So one of two things happened here. Like they knew, I mean, we believe that the spirits knew who we were in the house because we were there all the time. When I say all the time, about 2-3 times a month for years. Okay. But second off, one of two things happened. Either we were dealing with an intelligence, which I believe, and then we actually taught the spirit how to do the test. Because right when she said 3 and Josh said 3, the light went right off, like on command, like that. Normally we'd be like, whatever, until we go through the evidence and go through the audio. But that is one of the weird times that I had a flashlight with a spirit of a woman who we believe is Mary come through and say 3, and then Josh says 3. So it's like she knew what was coming even before it happened. And we always kid around about it because it's just like you just taught a ghost how to do an experiment, which is absolutely amazing. It's amazing.
You heard this with your ears.
We heard it
in real time.
In real time, and we recorded it. Actually, if you go on my website, Tri-City New York Paranormal Society, I know it's long. If you go to the videos, we have that. I think that clip is in there, and you'll hear the whole. It's a nice video, and you'll hear the whole thing. And once again, to me, it's not scary per se, but the weird part about it is doing this for as long as I've done this. This is the first time back in 2011, and I've had similar situations happen coming into 2020 that we seem to like almost taught or teach the spirit what we were doing, and then she kind of mocked us in a way. Go 3, and then Josh goes 3. So it was amazing.
That is incredible. Look, I want to say this right quick, okay? That just before anybody calls me an egomaniacal, whatever, because I can see that coming. Daniela produces this show, okay? She is the backbone of it. She is the whole structure that holds it together. There's no research report. There's no Spook Week without Daniela. All I do is come on here and talk. That's it. Daniela watches the chat. She takes care of the images, the pictures, the audio, the sound, the guests. All I do is come here and talk. So just want to say that to get that out there because I can hear it now. It's Carrie's such an egomaniac.
Well, I'll just put in when I can, Yeah,
well, you're having to co-host also, and you're having to listen to these guys go through the chat, and I mean, we really lean on our moderators. We really do, and I don't think they realize how much we lean on them sometimes because I have to do their job. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble here, aren't I?
You're setting yourself up.
You are.
Well, you can tell the difference whenever I do that because I have a late show that we do with me and Brad, and I try to do the Daniela hat. And you can definitely tell the difference. So I just sort of
only
say
one
that.
Daniela out there.
You got that right, and she works him. So all right, well let's Kenney, you got to give us something scary, man. We'll just kind of do a little round robin here because I got a little something myself.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of run from the paranormal. Like I kind of don't really. I try to avoid that. I've just that's something that's always kind of scared me. But
me and you should have been on teams.
yeah. So I guess one of the scariest stories I could tell was, when I was in high school, like my senior year, like I had a mullet and a mustache, and I don't know what's scarier than that. So, I don't know. Did you not catch that, Carrie? That was a joke.
I'm sorry. I was listening.
I love it.
But I wasn't.
No, I said the scariest thing I could talk about is when I was a senior in high school. I had a mullet and a mustache, and
that's terrifying.
Yeah. Boo. All right, I get it. For me, I guess, growing up, I used to like to go out in the woods a lot. I used to like to climb trees and do different things like that. And I used to like to go out in the woods when it was dark. It was just a lot of fun. And I was never supposed to do it, but I would always just kind of sneak out and do it. And I guess, for me, it was one of those things where I was kind of like, I was scared as hell. I mean, without a doubt, being out there, but it was one of those things where I was just so excited to go out and do it. So I got out there, and I remember this one time where I was just in the woods, and I don't know what it was, but I could hear something kind of walking, and this was like, I don't know, I was probably maybe like 9. So this was like all like pre Bigfoot for me. Like I'd never even heard of, you know, a Sasquatch or anything like that. I'm from northern Vermont, so the only cryptid that I had ever heard of was Champ in the lake. So, you know, so I'm just in the woods, and I just hear something kind of walking around. And it could have been a deer, it could have been a bear. I don't know what it was, but it just kind of seemed like it followed me until I was out of the woods. I know, you know, for a lot of people like that, you know, may not sound, you know, terrifying, but for me, I mean, I was 9. I wasn't supposed to be out there. Nobody even knew I was out there, and just hearing something walking around in the woods that, you know, thinking back to that time, you know, it's just like, first of all, I don't even know what I was thinking being out there like that, but it was scary. I don't know if anybody's ever done anything like that. So that's my scary story. I don't have a lot of them because, again, I just run from anything that's scary, paranormal. I like going out in the woods and you know, at night, especially, you know, with Gary, you know, and the team, and you know, seeing different things and hearing different noises, and you know, seeing those lights that show up in the middle of the woods for absolutely no reason, and then just, you know, disappears and's gone. But that's pretty much the extent of my scary. So I hope I didn't let you down. That's why I was like,
well, the thing is, you're not scared. That's why it's not scary to you. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of things you could talk about, experiences you've had that would be scary to a lot of people. I had a pretty terrifying experience with a Bigfoot 13 years ago. Okay, it kept me out of the woods. I never went back. People have heard this ad nauseum, and so that's why we're not going to talk about it here. So I understand the fear of being out there. If you're not afraid, you're out. I mean, you just talk about being out there at night around Bigfoot and lights coming through the woods. That can be pretty unnerving for a lot of people. So I think that's the thing, is you're just not scared. That's all it is. And that's why you don't have a scary story, because you're
Right.
you're not the one that's scared.
When I was 9, I was scared, but I didn't know what it was.
Right. Well, hey, anybody can probably will empathize with that, especially in the dark.
Sure.
But I want to get into Gary. What are you guys doing right now? Are you doing anything Bigfoot wise right now?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really busy year, 2020. Even, I mean, the one good thing that happened about this pandemic situation for us on the backside is my paranormal team, we kind of had to just go hibernate for a little while due to the fact that we can't go to a lot of the houses and things. We just started getting back into it. So paranormally, we're doing events again and things like that, raising a lot of money for charity. That's what we do. As far as Bigfoot, so that means in the woods now. As Kenney said earlier, you know, I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a mountaineer. I do mountaineering. I do ice climbing. I do rock climbing. I do all that crazy stuff. So I'm kind of like an adventure guy. And so one thing I've been doing a lot this year is a lot of deep woods bushwhacking. I love to bushwhack. I make a bush camp up in the middle of the woods, like that survival type stuff, and just chill and just play in the woods and see what we get, you know, and go way back. I really think it's important to have those skills in Bigfooting and any other kind of outdoor research, because then you understand the forest and understand animal behavior. A lot of my background, my sciences are in animal behavior. I went to school for animal behavior. So it's like, it's awesome studying the woods, studying the animals, what's going on. That tells you what's going on. But this year I've been out in the woods so much with the pandemic because there's really nothing else to do. So it's been awesome because we have now learned a form of communication. And what I mean by that, we work with 3 different families. When I say families, clans of Bigfoots around the state, okay, that we, over the years, have established that they're in these areas, okay? If anybody knows, I'll throw the one area, you know, Whitehall, New York, which is Bigfoot Mecca of the Northeast. You know, I mean, most Bigfoot researchers know about Whitehall. One of our areas is up in that area, okay? And up in the southern Adirondack area. And sure enough, we've been going up. I created a bush camp out in the middle of the woods, so it's off the trail. Only people that are going to find it would be hunters. And right now it's tough because hunting season's happening right now. And I don't like to mess with and I'm a bow hunter myself, but I don't like to mess with the hunters, you know, and get out there in the woods and spook things and stir things up, because they have every right to be in the woods too. And I also don't want to get shot. I really don't. But, you know, so we're up in the back of the woods, you know, we set up a camp. This year we found we either have a male juvenile or I have a female. that's coming in and out of camp. The reason I believe that, we're finding a nice 13-inch track. All right. We found this track 3 times in a 4-week period of span. And when I say 3 times, 3 different tracks in the same exact area. And one of them was right smack in the middle of our bush camp. All right. So, which is awesome. I mean, that automatically tells me we got something coming in. We got something at least interested in what we're doing. So then what I've been doing is I've talked to a couple of different researchers throughout the whole state. Like I say, I've been lucky to be on TV, to then have a network. That was the best part about TV, not doing the show, but actually becoming friends and networking with such amazing researchers that I would have never met. Only met them because of the show. And so I've started doing what is working for us is the Chinese alphabet. Now, it's funny when the researcher was like, yo, Gary, you should try this, because once again, it seems to be working for us out here in Washington State. And I'm like, why? That doesn't make any sense to me. But as I started to think about it, it makes perfect sense. If we go by the theory that Squatches crossed the land bridge and all this other stuff way back in the day with the native tribes and things like that, it would make sense that it would be a generational passed down to thing form of communication. And sure enough, we started doing the alphabet in one of our spots, and we're getting responses back. Like, once again, and it's an amazing thing, because even the little responses that we're getting back, that's showing me that whatever it's there, they're understanding what we're doing. And to me, that's perfect evidence. That's for me. I'm like, that's great. I'm good. So now we're trying to form that relationship. The great part is we did this in another part of the state, out in Western New York, out toward Rochester and Buffalo area. Sure enough, the same exact thing happened. We put the glyphs out and we got a response back. So to me, that's the data, the hard data, not the paranormal part of a Bigfoot that people talk about. I want the hard numbers. And what that is telling me is this year, we have now formed a line of communication. Whatever that communication is, I don't know. I can't tell you that yet. That's going to take years to figure any of that out. But what I can tell you is that we are getting answers to what we're doing. So we're doing something right. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
What is your opinion? I'm going to go there on the paranormal side to Sasquatch. Hey, look, we try to cover all the bases.
No, we talk about this.
Totally neutral here. So.
You're fine. I talk about this on our show. Me and Kenney go back and forth. Now, this is the weird part. Okay, I'm a flesh and blood guy. Okay, flesh and blood. That's where I stay. Now, once again, though, here's the twist. 2020 has been a really weird year for me as far as Bigfoot's concerned. Now, I've been taught by ex-Bigfoot researchers that are really prominent in the field, bigwigs in the field, okay? And I was taught flesh and blood, flesh and blood, flesh and blood, and they drilled that into my head. And honestly, I'm still on that side, because from what the people are telling me as far as when I talk to them, they tell me it looks just like an inbred human. They have cleft palate of the jaw. Their faces looks disformed. They have inbred type features, okay? I get a lot of these reports, and these are multiple people. And when I say multiple, you're talking like 20s and 20s of people tell me this stuff. So if that's the case, then that, to me, being, a science nerd and, animal behavior and veterinary medicine, that's a genetic code, which would make sense, because there would be inbreeding in the populations to keep them going, which would make sense. Once again, it still would make sense. I stay on that side. But here's the weird thing, that this year, though, I've had some really weird experiences in the woods, and from a paranormal side. And I'm still using this very loosely, because when I say paranormal, I'm just saying I don't know. That's it. I'm not saying ghost. I'm not saying Bigfoot's can interdimensional jump. I'm not saying anything like that at all. You would never hear me say that. What I'm saying is weird, strange things in the woods. I could tell you, really, if you want to hear a story, I can explain it a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right. So this is weird. And let me tell you, this is my disclaimer. Disclaimer awesome. To everybody. Disclaimer to everybody. I'm not making this up because it's so messed up. First off. Second off, it happened, and that's where I leave it. I'm not making a judgment on it, though. So every time I talk about it, I am not a paranormal Bigfoot guy. I'm just putting that out there. So you heard it. Now, good. So we went to one of our research areas, okay? And, we parked the car, went up into the woods, all right? So we were going up to just check. I wanted to set up a trail camera. Okay. Once again, we're always putting trail cameras in the woods. One of the reasons I put trail cameras in the woods is not to catch a Bigfoot. I don't care about that as much. If I do, great. But guess what? If I put it out on the internet, everybody's going to bash me anyway. That's fake. It's you hoaxed it, blah, blah, blah. I want to monitor the animals and what they're doing. The animals will give you all the answers. That's that simple. If you know how to monitor animals, then you know what's going on in the woods. Okay, so I went to go put a camera. Long story short, so go down, go to put the camera up. Okay, brand new batteries, all this weird stuff. There, once again, we did find that same day there was a 13-inch track right in camp when that happened. I was like, great. Okay, so whatever creature is here, it's still here. Okay, well, go to put the camera around the tree. Right, set it all up. Now we use very expensive cameras, so we make sure to have like the top of the top because I want the best pictures I can get. Sure enough, I go to turn it on and it wouldn't go on. And I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Like we came all the way out here. The batteries aren't working. I tested it even before I left, but first thing I say is camera malfunction. Okay, I'm like, that's malfunctioning. End of story. So I'm like, whatever. So I'm turning it on and off, and finally I started getting pissed. I'm like, well, this is stupid. Now I'm getting aggravated. So I take all the batteries out of the camera. I'm like, I'm going to try to reset it. Maybe if I take the batteries out of the camera, it will then reset it, which then putting all brand new batteries back in. So you tell me this. Take all the batteries out of the camera, right? Turn it on, and it starts shuddering. The shutter starts flashing uncontrollably for 1 minute. Nonstop. No batteries. Now to preset this up even more, which is weird, it's a full moon night. Full moon. We're on the day of the full moon. Right? You know, what I've been finding this year, maybe because I've noticed it more this year, on every full moon night, I've had some weird crap happen. And when I say weird, like really weird. Now, I believe in the full moon only because as a paranormal person, I do see correlation with the full moon and paranormal activity. But when I'm in the woods, and we understand animal behavior is different during the full moon, which I get, okay? But we've been having some weird stuff. So the camera shuttered for 1 minute straight. Just kept going, shutter, like it's taking
With
a bunch
no batteries.
No batteries. I took a video of it. I sent it to Kenney. When I got home, I'm like, yo, dude, look at this. There's no batteries in this camera, and look what it's doing. Like, how does this even happen? Okay. I put all the batteries back in the camera, shut it off for a minute, turn it back on, and it just would not work again. It still wasn't working. So now at this point, I'm like, camera malfunction. Like it's a malfunction of the camera, leaving it at that. I'm not going anything crazier than that because once again, I'm logical. I think very logical. I'm a very data-based logical person. Cool. So we go back up to the car. All right. So meanwhile, there's like a bunch of people at this camp partying and stuff like that, a bunch of COs, you know, we're talking to them, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying why I'm in the woods. They're probably wondering like, what the hell is this dude doing down in the woods? Get back to the car, right? I go to start my car and it was completely dead. Now, my car is completely dead. The battery is completely dead. Wouldn't even turn over. Luckily, now, once again, I'm in a place where we get no cell phone service whatsoever. I have to go 10 miles just to get service. That's how far, just to get any kind of anything, which that's a long hike. I mean, I'm an ultra runner. I do ultra marathons, and that would still be a long run one way to come all the way back. You know, it's a 20-mile day. So I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me right now, right? Like that was my biggest fear, is being stranded in the woods. Like, yes, wilderness stuff, I don't care. I can survive. Your car, though, when you're ready to go home and that doesn't start, that's awful. That's the worst feeling ever.
Right.
So the guy comes out of the woods. Right? He's feeling good. He's feeling good. And long story short, we go to jump my car. Well, I have a brand new car. My car's not old or anything. It's a brand new car. We couldn't even jump the battery at all. So even we were talking like, well, your battery should jump, no problem. Like you should at least have enough juice from the new car, because both of our cars are new cars. They're not like old jalopy cars. So the battery's not even that old. I've never had any problems with the battery. I actually stopped multiple times to get coffee and stuff even before I got there. So, and then finally I had to get a ride out of there, which was a whole nother process. And then go back the next day, switch the battery, boom, car started right up, go. Now, when I took the battery home, when I looked at the charge on the battery, because I have a battery tester and all that fun stuff, because I trickle charge things, sure enough, there was still juice in the battery. So there was still juice in the battery that would have kicked over the car. Because like, Kenny and I were talking, when you have old cars that sit out all winter and things like that, and then you trickle charge them, and then you can fire them up usually, you know what I mean? Even the battery's dead, you can still fire it up. So it's one of these situations that I can't explain whatsoever, only because it's like, well, all this weird stuff happened in a very short period of time. And then I'm not going to, if you want to make up a story, I guess, in your head, I'm like, well, did the battery somehow drain when I was down in the woods, and that battery was keeping the trail camera clicking with no batteries in it? Was there some kind of link from my car, which wasn't that far away, to that? I mean, you can go on and make up all these stories and weirdness, you know what I mean, which I don't do. But that's just facts. Like, what happened is what happened. And I'm just left with, you know what? That's one of those weird paranormal type weird situations that out of, all these years I've been in the woods, and I've been lucky to go to Kentucky and down in, Smoky Mountains. And I've been very blessed to be able to travel the United States doing Bigfoot. And I've never had an experience like that. And I've been to that place like hundreds of times because it's my backyard. Like, that's where we research all the time. So, this year has been weird with the weird paranormal stuff in the woods that's happening. On top of the new phenomena that people talk about is seeing lights in the woods. I think a lot of researchers, we could say we see the orb lights and all those weird lights in the woods. And I've been talking about that for years. Like, we've seen them for years. We call them paralights, and that's what we just kind of call them. But now, what they're calling them we call it now, Kenney and I call them the Adirondack lights. That was a coin phrase of Kenney's. And, it's something that you can't really explain, and Kenney, I mean, he can talk about his experience with that because he was there when we saw paralights in the woods.
Yeah. It was just real cool. We had just gotten done, we were out there for a few hours. It was dark. A lot of the research that I do when it comes to any type of cryptid is, like I go way back. I go to, like Native American lore. That's kind of what I'm drawn to. And, the Native Americans, have reported that they've talked to different spirit beings, different type of Sasquatch, hairy man, what have you. So, Gary had this idea, and we went out in the woods, and we just played some Native American drumming and chanting. And first of all, for anybody that goes out and actually goes out in the woods and researches, just do that once. Just being out there in the middle of the woods with no sounds, but just in the distance hearing, drumming and chanting. It's just a really awesome experience. But so we ended up doing that, and, to see if, hey, maybe some of that would, bring a potential, a Sasquatch into our area. After we got done playing it, we did, hear like some movement off in the distance. Could have just been a deer. We don't know. Never actually saw anything. But as we were leaving, I turned around and we got out to the cars, and I looked into the woods, and there was this light that was just in the middle of the woods in the area that we were in. And I mean, there was no campers out there. I mean, there was nothing. There wasn't a trail out there. There's like, a lot of the time, people say, well, like gases and stuff will create lights, but I mean, there's like nothing there to actually do that. And, so, for me, it was just awesome to see that. And I have to ask myself, did we actually, by playing the chanting and the music, did we actually, call something in? And, like Gary, I'm more on the flesh and blood side of, Sasquatch and cryptids. But there is still that percentage in me that says, hey, there could be something paranormal here. And, I mean, there's been a lot of folks that have talked about, how, they could be extraterrestrial or they're ghosts, or they're walking in and out of, like open chamber doors in the middle of, the forest that we don't see. And then, folks talking about, like footprints, how there's footprints and then all of a sudden they disappear, like saying like a ghost would, so there's all these different reasons that why I'm not 100% flesh and blood, because I mean, I'm not, as far as Sasquatches, I've never actually seen one, but I always say that there's enough evidence to suggest that there is something out there. And that's kind of what I go on. So as far as flesh and blood, and in spirit, I don't know, but I mean, just that night, with that light out there, it was just, it was intriguing because we just put something, like, it kind of felt like we put something in motion and kind of got something going. So it makes me wonder too, when Gary went back to that area, after maybe we stirred something up, whatever it was, we left that night. But when Gary went back, whatever it was, I don't know, maybe it didn't want him to leave, like we left before. So, I mean, to have the camera, just going with no batteries in it. I mean,
yeah, that's something.
I mean, I'm no scientist and I'm no technical guy by any means. And I asked a couple people, I'm like, hey, if you take the batteries out of something, can it still work? I've had people say for a couple seconds, maybe, like there's still some juice, some spark. But I mean, this went on, it's just like, it didn't, it went on, like Gary literally had to like stop it. And then, to go to his car and have the battery completely dead. Yeah. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense because I run a business during the week and we have fleet vehicles all the time. And when they're not starting at all, I mean, literally you just throw some jumper cables on them and you go. And that didn't happen with his car. I mean, there were no warning lights. There was nothing, absolutely nothing. It just, drops the other battery in and then he's good to go. So I don't know. We just kind of thrown it out there as in like, well, maybe something didn't want him to leave.
I think there's so many accounts that you hear, that are flesh and blood, and then there's always a little bit of a weirdness to some other accounts. That I think everybody must go down that route of that rabbit hole of, if it's not flesh and blood, it has to be, because some things just don't make sense. And is that because there's, maybe if it is flesh and blood, is this other stuff that's going on, something separate, or is it this creature? And Gary, you're saying as well that you're psychic. Can you use that in any way to figure this out?
Oh,
I know
man.
that's done, but how do you use your kind of psychicness?
Now, okay, here we man, this is a rough show. How I can so
Down to the
when I grew up as a psychic in an Irish Roman Catholic home. You put the mat together, okay? It was not a good situation, okay? And that's how I got into the paranormal. I got into the paranormal because as a young child, I was seeing, my great-great-grandmother, who I never even met. And I was explaining her to my parents, and I, being in an Irish Roman Catholic home, and then my dad's side's 100% Italian off the boat, you don't talk about things like this. So me and the belt and the cane were best friends. I mean, that's just the way it was back then. But I don't use, here's the disclaimer, I don't use psychic stuff in Bigfoot. All right. I'm able, I've trained myself. I've been taught by, I was trained by another psychic. When I do paranormal work, and that's ghost work, okay, I only use that type of ability to tell a story as far as what information I'm trying to get. So I'll try to go to certain spots of the house or the location outside and then use that ability to bring me to that place. But then I kind of try to shut it off and then get the work done. So I use it as a guiding tool because, once again, I'm a science guy. And even though, yes, I have an ability that can't be explained by absolutely science or anything, even though, science has teetered on it a little bit more and more, but I'm going to get ripped apart on the backside for being like, well, you're a psychic, blah, blah, blah. So when I'm yeah, well, you know how it is.
Yeah.
So when I do paranormal work, I use it as a guiding tool. Now, I do channel. There's been times where I have channeled in paranormal cases when I'm trying to help clients. That's a different thing because sometimes you have to go a little bit further to then help people. So that's a different type of thing. Now, in Bigfoot, I try not at all to use that. Now, here's a weird story. Once again, if we're going to talk weird stories, I was doing a TV show for History Channel, okay? And during the TV show, we did have Bigfoot activity happening around where we were filming. I took a cameraman and we went in the woods because I was kind of getting disgruntled because everybody was just hanging out doing nothing. And I'm like, well, this is a waste of my time. Why am I even here if we're all eating soup and Clif Bars? Like, I didn't take the day off. I'm not getting paid. You know what I mean? I'm losing pay to eat soup and Clif Bars while you guys decide what you want to film. So I took a guy with me. I'm like, yeah, listen, we're going to go in the woods. They're like, oh, well, that'd be great. That'll be like an adventure thing, blah, blah, blah. So he has one of those cool $50,000 Starlight scopes that I really wish I could have just, yeah, you know, like, because those people, they have the cameras. That's production. So we're going down into the woods, right? And I got all of a sudden out of nowhere. Now, I don't say this is psychic, so I don't say that. I believe Bigfoot in infrasound. And I do believe in Bigfoot in infrasound. I believe that, and if we look at this, all the largest primates and mammals on the planet give off infrasound. Elephants give off infrasound. Lions give off infrasound. Whales give off infrasound. Now, if Sasquatch is the largest primate, and I'm not putting it as a monkey or ape, I'm just saying as a primate, because humans are primates too, that then it would make sense that they would be able to give off some kind of infrasound to affect the human body. And I've had that happen to me many times, and so have my researchers that are with me. You get the fright or flight. You want to get all pins and needles. You'll get disoriented, things like that. And sure enough, that kind of happened. But this is the weird part now. I was getting me and the cameraman, because the cameraman started freaking out a little bit. He goes, I don't feel comfortable. I'm like, all right, well, I don't either. But we weren't talking about it when it was happening. We're kind of just being, you know, just doing our thing. And then we kind of both looked at each other because something didn't feel right. Well, then this is the weird part. And people talk about mind speak. You know, when you hear Bigfoot, some people will talk about Bigfoots can do telepathy and mind speak, and they'll put visions in your head. And all I can say is I did at that point in time get a vision. Now, I could be making this up in my head, so that's why I don't put it as any evidence or proof or anything. But I saw a female Sasquatch with a little one. Now, once again, that would make sense to me logically, only because where we research, I believe, is a nursery. So we find Bigfoot tracks all over the place in there. So it would make sense to me logically that maybe that could have happened from a mind speak perspective. But once again, I'm not saying that that's what really happened because I don't know. I can only tell you what I witnessed. Upon that stopping, right? So it happened and it stopped. Once it stopped, me and the cameraman no longer felt weird. We both at the same time were like, it was like almost like air was lifted off of us. We're like, oh, we feel good now. We can breathe, right? I'll say about a minute or two after that, boom, a tree knock. And they actually caught it on the TV show, which was really cool. So you don't really always get those nice tree knocks on a TV show. And we caught a tree knock. But that, you know, people don't really, I never really tell the story about how that happened up to that point. But that stuff was happening. So if you want to put it together any way you want to, I just know from the facts of what I experienced. We had fright or flight happen to both of us. I had a mind speak, if you want to say. I saw a vision in my head. I don't know if that's because I'm psychic. I don't know. I don't know if that's some form of communication they can do. I don't know. I stay out of that. But I saw a female and a small one. And then after we felt okay after that, it's almost like they walked by. You know, that's in my mind I was seeing. There was a creek bed down in front of us, okay? But we weren't to the creek bed yet. And as we know, creek beds I call them Squatch highways. They're easy to maneuver all down the creek bed. They just walk right down the middle of the creek bed, the path of least resistance. And sure enough, it was like it could have been that we were coming into that area. They were walking through, and then they just kept us at bay. Like, you need to stay. We're not going to harm you, but you just need to stay where you are. And that's kind of what happened, because when we both felt that, we stopped. We didn't move because we had that feeling of dread. Like, and that, you know, and I've had that a couple times in the woods. When we're having Bigfoot activity happen, out of nowhere, you get that feeling like you're going to die, like literally going to die. And that's kind of almost how I felt. Like, even though I knew nothing was going to happen per se, and I can't say I knew nothing was going to happen, because I think we're very, when we talk about Bigfoot and everybody's like, they're big cuddly guys and they'll never hurt you. I call BS on that because it's the woods. Listen, the woods are the woods. You never know what's going to happen in the woods. And that thing I tell Kenney all the time, as being a person that does mountaineering and things like that, I never know if I'm going to come home. There's that 1% chance. You're not going to come home. And that's just the facts. And we hear about missing 411 and all these people go missing in national parks and all over the place. So there is that small chance. But that's that experience. Like, if was it mind speak? I don't know, but it does line up. If you hear about mind speak in the Bigfoot world, it does match what that is. But I won't cross that line other than I don't know. And that's me and Kenney can just say, I don't know. And we're cool with it because we don't know.
Intuition kicks in.
That's understandable. Well. I'm sorry, Daniela. Go ahead. You're in.
I'm just saying intuition kicks in as well, doesn't it?
Intuition. That's a real thing. Absolutely.
To that all the time. Kenney, you've wrote a book recently, Folklore Frankensteins, and you've sort of been studying lots of different cryptids, and I know you've talked to witnesses, because I listened to how you researched your book. Do you want to tell us a little bit how you did that? But my question is with all these cryptids that you've looked into, is there any paranormal elements to them or these weird elements to them like there is with Bigfoot?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people I talked to that, a lot of them were very willing to kind of like talk about like their encounter. And for some of them, they were very, what's the way best way to put it? I mean, some people, they were, instead of just talking about like their encounter, like they were kind of bringing like the paranormal into it. Like one guy saying, he's like, yeah, I've seen a Bigfoot. I've seen lots of them. And I was like, well, how many have you seen? And he's like, well, hundreds of them. And I'm like, well, how do you get that? And he kind of went into kind of like the paranormal thing. And so I just kind of like, okay, thank you. And I just kind of moved on. And, so I did come across, different people saying different things. There wasn't a lot because a lot of the encounters that I went with in the book were from people who more or less like weren't like all excited about like the Bigfoot phenomenon that's kind of hit since, Finding Bigfoot came out, kind of made everything mainstream. These were people that were just very like, they weren't completely forthcoming. Like they gave their story and, they had some details, but they didn't have all these details. Like, there were some people that were like, yeah, it was like 100 yards away. And, when just given a description of like, like muscles and all this and that, I'm like, you picked all that up in the woods at like 100 yards away, so
that's a long way.
Yeah, I mean, the encounters that I went with were, ones where people were just like, hey, I was just fishing and then this is what happened type of thing. So again, when there was too much detail, I just kind of strayed away from it because I'm just like, I don't know. And people that aren't out looking for Bigfoot, not that I discredit anybody that's out looking for Bigfoot because I go out there, but, folks that weren't out looking for Bigfoot but had like some type of encounter, I'm really intrigued by those stories. And so that was a fun part about writing the book. Although I had to find one encounter from like all 50 states. So that was, definitely kind of daunting, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. My method of getting the encounters, because I mean, I could have just gone online and just pulled up, anything, but I wanted to be original. And I've even had some people say, well, how do you know the people that you talk to, weren't lying to you? I'm like, okay, how do you know the people that you're talking to in the first place, regardless whether you know them or not, aren't lying to you? Unless you're there and you actually see it, you witness it, it's your encounter. It's always, you don't know. You don't 100% know. So I just went, with encounters from people that were, didn't have all kinds of details, and was just, straightforward with me, but yet at the same time, didn't ask me stuff like, well, when's the book coming out? When's this? When's that? Because a lot of people, it sounded kind of like they just wanted to be in a book. Like, especially like this one individual I was talking to that asked me how much, I was going to be paying them for their story. I'm like, I can't even, say that what you're telling me is even true, but I'm going to give you money for it. No, it doesn't work like that. So I told everybody, I said, look, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to write the story. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to put the encounter in it. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to do anything like that. Because there were a lot of people that were concerned about that. Like, hey, you're talking about the state. You're going to say my name. I'm like, no, I'll talk about the state, the encounter. I won't say your name. And I had everything kind of like all in like a pile. And once the book was edited, it was ready to go. I went through and I shredded everything that I had, because even though it's not going to get out, but I'm just like, what? I promised people certain things, and I'm just like, this is the best way that I can do it. And I just went through and just shredded everything. But yeah, I mean, I definitely had, some strange encounters, and when they got really kind of way off, where they were going with it, I just kind of like, hello, I think, I'm losing you. Hello. Just kind of hung up. So, but it was fun. It was a fun project to write. The publisher did a great job editing it and getting it out. They've been doing a really good job with that, and they've been great to work with. And it's the book's done very, very well. Way more than I expected it actually to do. I was with a different publisher a few years back. That's the one I'm with right now is independent, and the one before it was more commercial and bigger. And I expected to maybe sell half the books than what I sold with the other publisher. And the first couple of months, I actually sold more with the publisher I'm with right now than the big commercial publisher that I was with before. So
where can we find it?
You can.
I've just put a link up in the chat.
Did you? Okay.
And there'll be a link in the description. And Gary, if you email me some links to your channel, your website, I can get them up in the description. I'm just going to pick this question out from Zach. Hootenholla, from all of your years of research, what has been your biggest scientific find or discovery? Details, please.
All right. Well, I mean, this is, as far as discovery, I did this one private case out in Western New York. Once again, like I've been very lucky to have a big network of people on the outside of the group. And what I mean by that, scientists and things like that who I work with. Well, it's not so much a find, but more of a debunk. And I think it's very important that in any field, especially Bigfoot, paranormal, one of our big things is to debunk things. This family claimed that they had a Bigfoot on their property, which I do believe that they have on their property. But they ended up driving themselves crazy about it, like absolutely crazy, to the point where everything turned into a Bigfoot, absolutely everything. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, because it's not. There's no such thing as impossible when we deal with these type of things. But what was strange about it was, they said they found blood. They're like, oh, I have blood and I know it's Bigfoot blood, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, great. Now I'm stoked. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, yeah, here we go. I get to take some DNA. Okay. Once again, I have DNA kits that were giving to me from a lab. So we have at our disposal DNA tests. So I took all the swabs that I needed to send them off. Now the gentleman was like straight up being like, this is the best thing I'll ever give you, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, I want credit. I want money. And he was getting in my face about it. And this is the dangerous part of what we do. Humans are the dangerous things. Okay. Let's remember that. Humans are the dangerous things. When you're into the woods out in the middle of nowhere, and then you randomly come across a human that shouldn't be there, that's what to be scared of. That's the spooky cast of the show. Humans being in spots where they shouldn't be, including us. I mean, think about us. We're bushwhacking in the middle of the woods doing Bigfoot research, which is normal for us in our head. Like, oh, this is cool. We're just this normal. But it's crazy. It's really crazy what we're doing. Then we go to people's houses. We don't know anything about these people. Nothing, especially in the ghost realms. In the ghost realms, we're stuck inside their house. We don't know
Right.
anything. Okay, that's scary because you have, especially when you have like, you know, females and other people on your team, it becomes, you just don't know what can happen in a house. Meanwhile, we're outside now at these people's houses that have shotguns, that have all this stuff. We took the DNA samples. Long story short, they came back negative. Okay, so it wasn't any kind of human contamination. It wasn't any kind of half hybrid primate, anything. They came back unconclusive, but they weren't unconclusive to the point where there was animal DNA in it. Okay, so because there was animal DNA in it, I automatically have to. That's done. It's over with. But
Right.
we debunked this guy's claims. But then I go back with the information. I go back with the news. It did not go well. It did not go well at all. He basically ran us off his property. He was so mad. I gave him the paperwork, okay, from the lab. I'm like, this is what it is. I'm sorry, sir. I mean, this is what it is. I know you want it to be something else, but this is what it is. So I think the reason I'm telling this story is my best evidence. It's not so much my best evidence because we debunked it, is that it shows that even as field researchers, like that we're able to take DNA tests. Okay, we have that at our disposal, which is great. But even when you're doing stuff as far as DNA, people are still going to come at you no matter what. Even and the facts are the facts are the facts, and I stay there. Doesn't mean that they don't have a Bigfoot on their property. I'm never going to call someone a liar. I'm not. Okay, but when the Bigfoot thing keeps going on, and like Kenney said in his books when he was, and what he did in his books is amazing. Like that's absolutely amazing that he came up with that. That these people are kind of doing the same thing. They come forward with all this information, like, oh well, we got him trying to get in our barn, and we got him eating our grapes, and we got him doing this and that and this and that. But I have no pictures of him, and he has trail cameras all over the place. And then he's showing me pictures of nothing on trail cameras and telling me that's a Bigfoot. So I'm kind of just black pictures. I'm just like, okay, whatever. But that's the best, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So, but that to me is the best evidence is no evidence, because at least we went through the steps. We went through the labs. We went through the DNA sequencing to get that result. Mm-hmm. And the result came up negative, which, trust me, I wanted that to come up positive so bad, because I'm like, wow, we got DNA. We got DNA. I mean, I was so jazzed when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. But the reality of the beast is it wasn't, And as far as like the best evidence, I mean, really all we usually get, honestly, are footprints. Okay, so footprints are cool. I mean, every time you find a footprint, it tells a story, right? Footprints tell
me that is the best evidence. To me, that's the best evidence.
It is. I mean, for what I agree with you, because I'm in the same pool as you with that theory, is that once again, that's physical evidence in the ground. That once again, when you get pictures taken, you can debunk pictures all day long, no matter what, unless you have something standing in front of a camera looking like us, that clear. But when you have physical evidence of a Bigfoot track in the ground, you cannot dispute that, other than someone hoaxed it, that's the only thing, which is super hard to do where we are half the time. I mean, let's be honest. So yeah, I agree with you.
The ones with dermal ridges, I mean, it's just some of these things. This should be enough to me. I want to drop this on you while we still have a few minutes, okay? I've been in the woods. I've looked for Bigfoot, not for very long, a couple months. But have you ever taken a mel meter or an EMF meter out Bigfoot hunting?
Sure do. I do all the time.
You ever get those spikes?
All the time, and that's the weird part. And once again, that's the weird part of what we were talking about earlier.
Okay,
the paranormal part.
I did the same thing. Okay. And I'm like you guys, I'm a flesh and blood guy, but we say this here all the time. You can't not look at this other side. You have to. Can't. And you don't have to change what you believe. All you have to do is expand what you believe is possible. And if you can do that, then you're not discounting it all outright, and you can arm yourself with this information if it happens to happen to you. Okay. Which is, so we tell those stories. We have these people on here that have these experiences. I've gotten 150 to 300 milligauss in the middle of the woods. Now you might get 2 at your plug in the house, constant. What I looked into EMF, what it can do, drain your batteries. Yeah. Through induction, can also charge batteries if the polarity is right, which kind of lends to the whole camera still shuddering without the batteries.
Correct.
It can make you hallucinate, see lights and orbs. It can make you hear voices. It can make you lose time. It can make you feel sick. All these side effects of EMF that people describe as happening to them in the woods around Bigfoot. Now, can two things be true at the same time? Can there be paranormal activity and Bigfoot in the same place? Absolutely. Is this Sasquatch doing this? These are the questions that we'll probably never get the answers to until we get one. But
no, and I
what
agree.
What do you think about that? Set infrasound aside, EMF is being a possible thing for all these occurrences.
Well, I'm glad that you brought this up. So I use what's called the EDI meter. In the paranormal field, we use them now. It's a brand new, it's basically the paranormal Swiss Army knife is what it is. What an EDI plus meter shows is temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, vibration, and EMF all at the same time on one box. The cool thing about the EDI plus meter, and I think in Bigfootology, I think people should get them in the fact of you can record on them. And what I mean by record is every second it records data in the box. So you pull that up on the Excel spreadsheet, it gives you every single second of what's happening. So when the phenomena happens in real time, you then have it documented in data form. And if you're into stupid data numbers, which I'll tell you, that thing is awful to look at all those numbers because it's brain melting. But you're looking for that spike that you're talking about. And sure enough, I have got the same spikes, and we're talking way off the charts. I'm talking, if you're using a K2 meter, if anybody knows what a K2 meter is, how it's like green, yellow, red. We're just going to go by the easy colors for everybody.
Right.
We're getting red spikes. Okay. We're getting straight to the tapped out red spikes. What's interesting, what you just brought up is, yes, at the one place that I was telling you earlier about where we filmed for the TV show, where we do some research, we did get very high EMF spikes in the woods. Okay. I can't explain it. Here's another tidbit for you. At one time, I put 4 different recorders in the woods. Okay. I do what's called the Squatch Triangle. And that's what I call it, the Squatch Triangle. I make a triangle in the woods and triangulate all the recorders in the woods. And then I put one in the middle. So I have 3 on the outside, 1 in the middle, all within a mile radius. Okay. So I graph it all out. I'm a very data person. So you just got to know, please, if you do something like that, know map and compass. You got to know map and compass skills, and you got to have a good GPS. Okay. So it's dangerous. You'll get lost really easy. And I'm a big hiker safety person, hiker safety first. So when we got that graph all in there, okay, I left, all right? I let all the recorders go. I'm like, we're going to run them out, okay? Now, the batteries should last up to 60 hours, okay? Now, we're talking summertime, too. This all happened in the summer, so it's like 60 degrees, 70 degrees. It didn't get that cold, okay? Sure enough, all brand new batteries. I come back. Every single recorder stopped at 18 hours. So you tell me, this is the weird thing again. I have 4 recorders in a place where we had high EMF readings, okay, that all stopped at 18 hours. Now, the strange part was I did get a whoop call on 3 of them. And the whoop call was all at the same time, so we triangulated the whoop call, okay? The other 2 were kind of far away, so you could barely hear it. It's on there, but sometimes I think we make this stuff up in our heads because you know that you caught them on the other ones. So I discredited the other 2. But we got a whoop call, and the whoop call happened when we were there setting up the triangulation, okay, of the border, but we didn't hear it at all. We did not hear it at all. We recorded it, but we didn't hear it. Once again, does that now come back into like, why didn't we hear that clear whoop call, clear as day, when we were there, because it was clear as day on the recorder, just like when we do EVPs and ghost hunting. Why do we catch voices from the beyond on a recorder? But we're standing right there and we don't hear it. But unlike the 1, 2, 3 that I said in the beginning of the show, we heard that clear as day. So this is the weirdness. I agree with you. I think it's very important from a research status. We're called field researchers. Just because you believe in one thing doesn't mean you can't also research another phenomena.
Sure.
Because once again, that's how we do cause and effect. cause and effect. Because maybe, like you're right, we'll probably never have that answer, and that's okay that we don't. If we don't, we don't. But here we are meeting for the first time, and we're now sharing a story and sharing stories with each other of similar things that we're noticing in the woods. And that's what I believe in the Bigfoot community that we need to do as a collective whole, is come up with a plan to be like, listen, this is the things that we're getting. And not jump on like, well, it's a paranormal thing or it's a flesh and blood. No, honestly, who cares about that stuff? Who cares?
That's why we do this show, the way we do it.
Exactly. It's just all about, everybody's going to believe what they want to believe. The number one thing people have is the power of their own belief. And you'll never change that until they decide they want to change that themselves.
Right.
And that's what it is. So I agree. Like, once again, I mean, if there's any researchers out there listening, definitely bring a Mel meter, buy an EDI plus meter, because you can, if you want the data that you can read it, then you can pull that up on your computer later on the SD card.
Man, go ahead, Kenney.
I was just gonna say, to touch on the paranormal versus flesh and blood again, because we keep kind of going in that direction. When I'm talking with folks about that, or somebody's talking to me about it, the ones that I kind of, I guess, connect with a little bit more, the ones that want to talk about it, like the possibilities. I know that there's a lot of people that I've talked to that they want to bring in the paranormal aspect because there's so much that's unknown in it that there's no answers. By saying, hey, it's paranormal, it kind of gives them answers and kind of helps them believe.
Right.
To say, okay, well, it's a ghost and that's why. Okay, well, that makes you feel good. Okay, well, but is that actually what it is? So for me, again, the people that want to talk about it and say this could be a possibility. But there's a lot of people that I've found that kind of, bring in the paranormal side of it to justify the subject of Sasquatch. And for some people don't look at them and be like, okay, these guys are completely nuts. So again, for me, it's like when I'm talking with individuals, I'm looking for somebody that really kind of has questions and is kind of looking into it, not using the paranormal side of it to justify and say, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah, and that's always been the argument in the Bigfoot field. And that's why if going back I'll say almost 10 years ago, that if you ever brought up paranormal Bigfoot in Bigfoot field, you were automatically casted out of the whole community. It's just sure. and that's the way it was. You know what I mean? Even if you mention that word, you were automatically you're pushed aside. And I agree with Kenney 100%. We've seen it, that when people can't explain what they're dealing with, they have to they always have to tag it to what it is. But it's okay to say, I don't know. And because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that we're all out there doing the work. We're not sitting on Google and on the computer. We're out in the woods doing the work to then bring everybody the stories in the data. And 9 times out of 10, people are like, yo, Gary, what'd you find? And I'm like, nothing. I got a porcupine. I saw my first porcupine not dead on the road. I saw one in the woods. I was amazed by that. I get excited about the wildlife. I'm like, oh, porcupines are all over. I saw a fisher cat. Those things are crazy looking, but I get excited about that stuff, because at the end of the day, we need to still go out into the woods and enjoy life. And that's why I think with Bigfooting, for me personally, it's a spiritual thing as far as I get to go out in the woods and I'm out when nobody's bothering me. I can just get into nature. I get away from life. And regardless of what I find and what I don't find, it doesn't matter. But maybe I'll have some stories to share. But at the end of the day, that's all they are, is stories. That's it.
Well, gentlemen, we've gone a little bit over, and we apologize for that we didn't get to any questions. But we want to have you guys back for a researcher's report really soon, because you got too much stuff to get through in an hour. So we definitely want to get you guys back for a researcher's report. I'm sure Daniela will hook that up for us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Right. But we appreciate you guys being here with us. Fantastic to meet both of you guys. So glad that you're out there doing it. It's just I love hearing that there are people out there with boots on the ground trying to get real, tangible data, not just looking for tracks and looking for tree structures and all that, but trying to get some answers for this stuff. And we appreciate you guys doing that for sure. Absolutely, as I'm sure most of the people here watching do the same. And we definitely appreciate. Oh yeah, man, and definitely we want to have you back soon for our researchers report. But just remind everybody, we'll be back here tomorrow for night. I think it's night 5 tomorrow. Yeah, we're only doing 6 this year. Yeah, that's we're not doing 7. So, and because I was thinking what we had left earlier. So yeah, tomorrow. Yes. What?
We did 8 last year. It was a week and a day.
Oh, that's right. We did do 8 last year. So yeah, we're getting smarter as we go. That was tiresome. We were done by Halloween. But tomorrow night, Dr. Jeff Meldrum is going to be here with us, 7:00 p.m. Central. And that's the last night to register for the giveaway. Like I said, tons of things we're giving away, like 25 different prizes we have going out. So you guys make sure if you haven't got into that, tomorrow is the cutoff for that. So we got to get all the names together. But thank you, Gary. Thank you, Kenney, for showing up with us tonight. Danielle, a fantastic job as always. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you all tomorrow night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Deuces.